Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have two very special guests. A returning guest, his name is Jim Smith. We've done so many shows on SFK, and you want to check him out on Twitter. I will put his links or his hashtag. He does a lot of hashtagging stuff too, but it's at Smiley Face Cult, if I remember correctly. And then I have a new guest, somebody who I followed a lot, who's a great researcher, and he's done a lot of great work on these stage drownings. His name is Cole. And he operates stage drowning, which I think is a better name for the Smiley Face Killers. I feel stuck with this kind of tag on this because of Gilbertson and Gannon, but I like stage drownings better. And it actually encompasses some of these other cases that involve women now. There's a lot more females that people are noticing who go missing at night. So it's becoming a much broader global thing. I have a bunch of slides. Cole has a bunch of slides as well as a bunch of information. And it is interesting because he sent me stuff about Joey LaBute. And if people who followed me, that's how I got started. And that's how I met Jim Smith almost 10 years ago. I think it's been 10 years. It's really incredible. But it really started with the Joey LaBute case in Columbus, Ohio. And I even have a timestamp date of it from one of the videos that I did that I published in March and April of 2016, because Joey LaBute was one where I was like, okay, this is a urban myth. And then I was like, wow, if this guy disappears and is found in water, I'm going to freak out. And sure enough, 19 days later, he was found in the Scioto River after kind of this Arnold Schwarzenegger classic that happened in Columbus, Ohio. But that was it. And then I started following Jim Smith, I think on Facebook. Like now I'm off Facebook, but he posts a lot on Twitter. They both great researchers, probably the top researchers around. And there's a lot of new guys on YouTube and people looking into a lot of YouTube content creators with like millions of followers and millions of subscribers are looking into this, and we can talk about that. But Jim and I, like I've said, he was really the researcher on my first film when I put out the Smiley Face Killers film, which somehow got taken off. That used to be able to buy the DVD on Amazon back in 2017. But Jim was really the primary researcher in addition to my research, but like he always has a trace on that, so you can go through his Twitter feed and check it out, and he's really on top of all this stuff. But they can talk a lot about it. There's a lot of cases that have happened, a lot of things to talk about. So both Jim Smith and Cole, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, William. It's good to be here for the first time. I know we're going to have some good discussions tonight, and I'm ready for it. Can't wait.
Cool. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. I can bring up your information too. And Jim is just a storehouse, like an encyclopedia of information of these cases, dates, times. Going back and Joey LaBute for me was the one where I followed it from his disappearance and his death. But Jim has probably predicted, I know to my knowledge, at least 25 people who have disappeared later to be found in water because they fit the same pattern. This MO is always the same. It's like
it's trained.
You can really just follow it, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're too kind, William. I just want to say, like, we have been doing this for such a long time, and I can't thank you enough for your support. And I don't want to get off on a tangent, but without William, I probably wouldn't be doing this because it was you that supported me. And really, I'm not a journalist. I'm just a normal person that just cares about what's happening. And I've said that many times, same as Cole. And it's just interesting that there's a group of us online that really are passionate about these young men being murdered. And, you know, we have better things to do. We're not looking for attention and make money. We're trying to educate people. And it's because it's so obvious, just like what you said, William. It's easy to predict when the scenario is the same over and over and over. And that's because this is trained. These people are radicalized that are doing this stuff. So it's great to finally see people paying attention and talking about this more, and you know what this has grown into. What they're doing at Stage Drownings is incredible. I mean, I'm a big fan of Cole's work, obviously, and he does it a whole nother way. I love it. It's so fresh and smart, and respectful, and it's driven by facts. Instead of a lot of people online just like to go through conspiracy theories, and that's what really bothers us. And you're right, Smiley Face Cult is a shitty name. Sorry, wrong word. But I would. That's when we started doing this a long time ago. That was the only name that I really felt that
Me
fit
too. Me too.
until Stage Drownings, and that's just such a great tagline because it fits everything so much better.
It really does. I mean, hopefully people will pick that up. And it's like a better appellation or whatever you call it, I think. But it's still the smiley face killing. The symbol is still around. Like I tried to get like I saw Ashley Banfield, who's this kind of true crime journalist. She's wearing a smiley face pendant. Like it freaks you out. Like what? I'll show it to you in these things. And then Banfield shows up in the Epstein files. You cannot believe this stuff. She's like in some kind of like romance. She wants to have a romance with Jeffrey Epstein, this guy who's a monster. And Epstein's like, oh, send him a smiley face. Like he's literally talking about the symbol.
I saw.
Yeah. It's
you know, that's a great point you bringing that up. But, you know, after doing this for so long, it sure is something like Epstein that's doing this because it's big and it's funded. And I mean, if you've just been watching the last month, where across the country in these hot spots where men are disappearing and the same things happening to them. And, you know, this is just a new chapter. And this is something like Epstein. These people have a motive. These people are trained. There are a lot of these people, and
they know what they're doing. Like they've got the MO down. Like there's Banfield. Look at this. She's literally wearing a smiley face symbol. This is a reporter, and you can go look her up on the justice.com stuff about her and Epstein. Like Epstein, I wouldn't put him in like he's not a GQ model, but she's like, oh, Jeff, you're just so great. Like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, how do you know? Why do you think this? Why are you saying that? It's incredible.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting again about what we've learned about those cases. I know I've read a lot just because it's fascinating and terribly evil, but all the worst things that people told us for years were actually confirmed. I mean, it is similar to this because people still think this isn't real, and it's literally happening in front of everyone's faces so much that, you know, people don't even know how to describe it, but they know something's wrong.
Right. That's right. They know something's wrong. They can't perceive it. And that's what the Epstein files kind of show is that, okay, now we can see these guys are doing weird stuff. Epstein's going to like Juarez in Mexico, and there's tons of trafficking. It's industrial size. And he knows a lot of secret society stuff and occult stuff. Like he's very much he's like talks about Zodiac secret societies. So he's into this kind of underground sub rosa culture, like a counterculture. He never goes to church or synagogue. So like he probably knows some of the stuff, and there's just rumors and stuff, horrible stuff going on. Well, why can't it involve these type of abductions? These are abductions, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
100%.
But I think I see a lot of stuff these days where when I was younger, I thought that these were violent abductions, and maybe they started out that way, but it sure seems that way by how many cases we follow that young men or even some young women are on their phone and they're going somewhere with a purpose. We've said this over and over again, and they walk right into a trap.
Riley Strain, yeah.
That's right. And it's and you said that these people know what they're doing. They definitely know what they're doing because in case after case after case, there's evidence that they know where the video cameras are locally where these crimes take place, and the crimes don't happen until they are right out of camera view. And that just like Riley.
Right. And Igor Sarsky, I should have invited him.
That's right. You should have.
Yeah, it's my mistake.
It's
I'll
okay.
try. Well,
Maybe
next time.
night.
Next time, yeah.
I'd like to have a battle royale. Honestly, I mean, there's a couple other people I would love to have.
Let's do it again.
Discussion.
Let's set that up. But he did like fastidious, like super research on the UK cases, and it's like these people you can watch because the maps are all online in the UK of where the CCTV is, and you can just see where these people disappear after they walk away from the center of these towns.
Right.
That's the same thing with Jose Carreño and that Scarlett Blake. Scarlett Blake was like transgender. There's a lot of transgender stuff here in these cases. But he like lured the guy out of CCTV deliberately. Like it's like a premeditation.
It's trained.
Crazy.
They know what they're doing. This is the reason why they haven't caught. That's why Riley walked. Since you brought up Riley, I mean, I confirmed with one of the main investigators. I won't name that person's name, but they confirmed that there were no cameras under that bridge, and that was the last time Riley was seen. So, in my opinion, that's what I've always thought is what happened was when he walked under that bridge by the Cumberland River, he was put into a car.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it was just such a big case. It was news. All these new kind of guys, Brian Enton and all these other people were covering that case. And even Banfield, pretty strange. With her, there she is, friends with Epstein with these weird. She actually, that smiley face is not the only occult symbol. You should see what she wears. She wears like witchy moon stuff and moon phases. Like, whoa. Like all of them witches type stuff, it'll creep you out, man. But
I'm not sure I'm sure you know this, but since we're all talking tonight, again, thanks for everybody asking questions and being on, supporting us. It means a lot. But Kevin Gannon flat out confirmed to us personally that Riley Strain was only dead 24 hours and was missing 13 days. That's something they do not like to talk about at all, and that is confirmed. So the idea and the scenario that he fell down or it was some accident is not true. And that proves it. And there have been a lot of other people in Nashville being drugged, but that's something different because those people are robbed and live. The people doing this to young men, they don't miss. Right?
There's like they're not gonna bring them back. Janan on TV, the chat is really firing off. Guys, I'm gonna put the YouTube to the biggest chat because this stream I had a problem in my last streams.
Okay.
No, I'm just telling the audience, the listeners. I'll put the main YouTube chat. I'll put in the notes and you'll see it. So because they don't people who are really involved in talking or listening to us right now, they don't see the full chat. So I'll put a link to that right now. But Janine says Nashville's plagued with people getting roofied. You hear stories about that all the time. It's all over social media.
It happens in Austin too, but again, like this happens. People are robbed and drugged all the time, but the difference is those people live. They don't wind up in a river. And again, these cases, I've never seen a case where I have seen one where money was stolen, or their credit cards were used after the death. So or people's wallets are full with money when they're found. All the time. Money's not missing or anything. And the only case I'm referencing where I saw money stolen was the kid in Austin whose brother, I forget he's Hispanic, but somebody tried to get money out of his bank like 2 months after he was murdered. Anyway.
Cool. I want to ask you a question. How did you get started? Because like I always tell my kind of genesis story about, and I know Jim's can probably share that too. But how did you get started, Cole? Like compared to Jim and I have been doing this for 10 years. Like you maybe got started 3 or 4 years ago. Can you talk about what case really got you on your research journey?
Yeah. So I'm local to Pennsylvania, and it was actually a few years after the Dakota James case had happened. I was just going through like local true crime type stuff, and I figured out about his case. I did some research into his case. At this point, the Hunt for Justice show had already came out, so that was a big tool for me to be able to use to actually see that he was murdered. Dakota James, he was local. They did an episode on Tommy Booth, I believe, on the Hunt for Justice. So that was a Pennsylvania case. And since then, it started local, me just researching the more local ones and just expanding. And when I was researching those, I found William's stuff. Jim, I found your stuff. You guys had great coverage for years already at that point. So I wouldn't have even been doing or even encouraged to be doing this if other people like yourselves weren't doing it already. So that's really how I got started with it. Mostly just the local cases at the beginning, and then just your guys' coverage, and obviously Gannon and his team.
Right. Dakota James was what? Was that 2019? I'm trying to remember.
I want to say his was 2017.
2017, not that long ago. Jeez. Yeah, that was a huge case too. That was another big one. Got a lot of coverage, a lot of stuff like that. Wow. And so yeah, and also Tommy Booth was outside of Philadelphia. There's Jimmy
Right.
Slack in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of cases in Pittsburgh or its surrounding areas, if I remember correctly.
Oh, tons of them. There's probably in the whole Pittsburgh area, there's probably that I know of at least probably 6. And that might not be a lot compared to a place like Austin, but to me, I mean, 6, that's 6 too many.
Right. And that was a huge one. That involved the family, and it involved the medical examiner overlooked the damages on Dakota James's neck. They were literal like rope burns or something, and that was found out by the famed independent medical examiner. What was his name? It's
Cyril Weck.
Cyril Weck.
Cyril Weck. Yeah.
Legend.
Really a legend. Rip.
He
I actually
didn't overlook. They didn't overlook anything. They saw what they saw.
They didn't report it, right, though, but I don't think that came out in the public until they had a picture of him. And also, Dakota James's body was in near perfect shape for somebody who was supposed to be in the water for 40 days.
Well, again, just like Riley, though, you bring that up, we confirmed with his family, and it was his mom that said about the ligature marks on his neck that they refused, and they wouldn't let their family see Dakota after he was found, and that they confirmed that he was only deceased a few days. Again, not the 40 days missing.
Right.
To add on to Dakota James' injuries, I've only seen this reported in 2 separate instances. It's very buried and hard to find, but to go along with his neck injuries, on the Hunt for Justice show, Cyril Wecht, he says that he had blood pooling under 2 of his fingers, which would be indicative of him trying to relieve something from around his neck. And the only other reporting I found of that was a local news clip where they actually showed his fingers. And I mean, you can tell that that's not natural at all. I mean, they're bright, dark red, just filled with blood pooling at the fingertips.
That's right. And there was that one girl. What was the woman who wrote the article about him for Daily Beast? Do you remember that one? Where he was like pre-selected. What was her? You're kind of closer friends to her. I can't remember her name.
I respect her. It's Nikki Wiseman.
Nikki Wiseman.
She's the journalist who broke the story on Bill Cosby, and she is a friend, and is a believer and a hell of a journalist.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great article because it shows the background of James, where he thought like he was roofied or something, like he had amnesia, and he came out and called his friends, says, "I don't know where I am, and there's a black car here." Right?
It was a run through.
I went to that exact spot.
Wow. What was that like?
I went during the daytime, obviously, but I took a trip up to Pittsburgh last year, and I went to almost all of the sites that I knew of at that point, the last seen and recovery sites. And I went to the attempted abduction spot of Dakota James on Water Street, of all places. It was in front of a hotel. And if I remember in that Daily Beast article, it said that there was like an SUV double parked in the middle of the road facing almost the wrong direction, if I remember incorrectly. And it's not a large road. It's just a standard, 2-lane road. So that would stick out like a sore thumb. There's the river trail for hikers and joggers is literally right beside it, no more than a couple hundred feet. I feel like the initial plan that night, if things were to go right, was to kill him that night, or at least take him that night. Or it could have just been, like you guys said, just a test run to see maybe his reactions or something. I'm not too sure on that.
I think they wanted him the first time. Again, that's a great point. But his friend said that she went and picked him up because he thought he had been dosed and was worried and scared, and he got in a car. And then it was a week later that he disappeared.
Right. Here's the article. It's Nicole Wisensee Egan, right? I think at least that was her name back then. I can't believe that was 2017.
Boy, has it gotten worse since then, too. That's the funniest thing is that since this article, Austin has come onto the scene like gangbusters, like we've never seen, right?
Never seen Chicago, Houston.
Correct. Yeah, but Austin's a small town. Austin, I know it's a big college town, but Houston's a very big city. Chicago, obviously, very big city. But Austin, I tell you, there's something different about Austin, and it's been quiet, right? In the last couple of weeks, pretty quiet. I will say the police have really clamped down on any body being found in water right now in Austin. I mean,
Interesting.
If you haven't noticed, I mean, they're really trying to keep that stuff under wraps.
They've lied about it. Like they've provable lies, right? About that Israeli kid, right? That whole story.
The government paid money with taxpayer money in Austin to a firm to come up with a smokescreen that these were just accidents.
Right.
You know that? And publish that to try to make the public feel better because they're failing so much. I mean, again, it was just a couple summers ago that, when they were really having, like last summer, when they were really having lots of people in Austin died, that the police had to change the police scanner from public to private, and you had to register because they didn't people. So many young men were being found in water. They didn't like that at all. So they changed that. I mean, that's the first time I've ever seen that too. And, it's not just Lady Bird. It's all over Austin. It's surrounding Austin. Texas State has a victim. I mean, that's in Austin too. It's crazy you don't see any University of Texas victims, I will say. I've been looking. I haven't seen any.
That's right. And there was that guy who used to, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was like a true crime guy who would drive around, and he had pictures and stuff of these victims, and they didn't fit the government story. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Like, it's the same. I just did something about the Epstein case yesterday, where the public was told about what happened to Epstein, the MCC, is just a complete fairy tale, and it's happening over and over. The public doesn't understand how bad they're being lied to. They're just being deceived by people they're paying taxes for. It's great. It's
all
absolutely crazy. Every freaking urban state. Mm-hmm. They've actually come out, like the police chief in Boston. I remember him. Guys, there's nothing going on. There's so many bodies in Boston. Like, there's so many suspects. I can name some of these people off the top of my head.
That guy blocked me in the old police chief in Boston when that was really going on, because I challenged him online, and he just blocked me. That's the only time that's ever happened. I have challenged many police chiefs and people, and that tells you a lot. I mean,
yeah, you're always tagging them too. Like, hey, guys, what's going on? They just don't even respond. Like, they get away with murder, bro. I mean, I think Dakota James is a perfect example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I want to keep a record. That's why I challenge people online, because whenever this ends and whenever this finally breaks and finally people understand that hundreds of young American men are being murdered and have been, our baby boys, and nobody has done anything. Quite the opposite, have censored it and fought us and lied and tried to, and has allowed more young men to be murdered in such a violent manner in America. More people are dying from this. More American men are dying right now in the last month from these people than in Iran, in a war, and Americans.
Wow, that's just, I mean, it's just really crazy. It's just happening with such great frequency. And the media's covering it up. They refuse to see the big picture. They just like,
they see it,
pigeonhole it for one case. Like, oh, Riley Strain is missing, blah blah blah, and that's it, and they move on.
Must have got drunk and fell down. Those kids. That happens all the time.
Yeah, they always take their cell phone out and their wallet too before they drowned. They're so drunk that they're like, I'll leave my cell phone here, and then I'm going to shove my credit card out or break my phone, and then I'm going to drown. Like, it happens so many times. Like, how does this happen? That's the most recent case in Spain too. Didn't they find his cell phone or his wallet, and then they said he drowned?
I think somebody else had Jimmy Gracie's phone, if I read the reporting correctly.
They did. It was a criminal.
Wow.
But you know why, though? We talked about this, and there's a lot about Jimmy's case in Spain that they don't want to talk about. They say that they have him on camera. that the police say that. And I don't think only the police have seen that video of him falling in the water. I'm not so sure because they found Jimmy's underwear separately than when they found his body. And that was reported. That's confirmed. They found his phone. His phone was somebody else had his phone. And that's probably because they put his phone down and somebody else picked it up because it's valuable. But Jimmy's underwear was found separately. And I believe his other person's wallet was found. So why would you take off your underwear and then go fall in? Did he have underwear on when he fell in? I mean, there's so many questions they don't want to ask. And I don't want to hog up all this time talking, but I went and researched in Barcelona to see if this had happened to other tourists. And it had the exact same thing. And Jimmy was not the first. Same type, same down at the busy part of the nightlight, disappear, gone in the water.
Wow. How many other cases did you find in Barcelona?
4.
Wow. Within what time frame?
There's one a couple months ago, probably the last 2 years, I would say.
Wow. Because I did cover one in Madrid, same old thing, guy. He was an American too.
Yep.
Who disappeared. I can't remember his name offhand. I got to go find my own book. But same MO.
A lot of people are out of towners. I see that comment too, where people are out of town visiting, and they end up becoming victims of whatever the hell this is.
I wonder why. There must be the tourist thing, like, oh, this is a naive tourist or something like that. I don't know. Cole, like your approach is more kind of like you definitely do the research and then post it. Like you've got tons of like great factual background on so many of these cases. How many cases do you think you've covered, Cole?
Just on my Twitter, I'd probably say over 100. Okay. And that's just ones that I get hardcore facts, maybe even including police reports and stuff for. That's not even including the ones that I know of that I haven't requested, or there's not enough info for me to show that is my goal with it is to have enough information just in one tweet, including a couple of pictures, to convince the individual that this is homicide. And in the ones that I've covered, at least 100.
You dropped off the ones that you covered where?
Oh, I'm sorry. The ones that I've covered, they at least 100 cases that I've had enough information to show that it's homicide.
It's homicide, yeah. Wow. I mean, some of those aren't. I've seen cases you've covered that I didn't even know. So, like, some of those are like, wow, I haven't heard of that case. And it also goes to Sarsky, who got involved in this because of a case in Montreal I hadn't heard about. Because I think he went to school in either England or Canada or somewhere in the Commonwealth, and so he was from that. Yeah, he's familiar from that angle, a more international angle. The guy's name was Osborne.
I've talked to him. He seems like a solid dude.
Solid researcher, man. We done at least 3 shows, and his all of our conversations are in my book about the global death cult. But this guy, Spain Austin Bice, was 2011. He disappeared February 27th, found March 8th. And he was an American. Same old story. Family went there. Wasn't drunk. Family said he had moderate drinking habits. He was a big guy. And, he was like athletic and a very good swimmer, just like Dakota James, who was like head of his swim team. Like, make it make sense. Like,
yeah,
dude.
Not drowning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Should we go through some of the cases that I have just like from my notes? Like these are, let's see. This is just Texas community, Austin. The new guy who did Breaking Bad is making a new show, and it's the same freaking symbol, the yellow smiley face.
Yuck.
Yeah. Forgot what his new show is about, but it's there. Here's a girl's.
I hate that sign, by the way.
Yeah.
I've said it before. It gives me the worst feeling every time I see it anywhere. I am not a normal person because you come across smiley faces and you just see stuff and how it's used, and it's so creepy now. It's not the same. And I know people don't like that sign, and I don't like it either, but I think this is more than just a smile, because I think a lot of this people they constantly are antagonizing the police and families, and I think that's part of the Smiley of that they're just laughing at all of us, literally.
I think it ties into the whole occult concept that like
Yeah.
life is a big cosmic joke and nothing matters and who cares? Like we can just do
Yeah.
what we want. There's no consequences. You don't have any feelings.
Oh Lord.
Laugh through tragedy. Yeah, that woman, there was some kind of strange woman involved in the Riley Strange case who shoved out her phone and her case was all smiley faces.
Yeah.
No question about it. Here's a woman's case. I think you covered this too, Cole, is Heinz. This was
Yep.
Cross.
Yep, that was July last year.
This is classic, like CCTV. They see her at night. She's on her phone, or somebody's on their phone, just like Dakota
Walking.
James. Yep, walking.
It's worse than that though for here though, William, because this young lady wasn't drinking and she was out with her friends, and her phone was found at Riverside Park, which is where 5 other victims' personal belongings were found at the police chief when this was happening in La Crosse years ago. So right back to the same park.
Right, that statue of Cincinnati or all that weird stuff.
Yeah, they got rid of that.
What were you going to say, Cole?
Yeah, that they removed that Indian Hiawatha statue since, and it's really dropped off in that park since then. But this one really stuck with me, to be honest.
Why is that?
Well, I saw it the day it happened, and I just got really involved in it. I tried immediately, once it was confirmed she had passed, I tried requesting the FOIA on it. I was denied. I should probably try again because time has passed. But I know from, at least I talked to locals there, and I was told that the local rumor is that she had not been drinking at all that night, but still ended up, after she was found in the water, with a blood alcohol content 2 times the legal limit. Her recovery spot was not where most of the other La Crosse victims were. It was miles downstream in Brownsville, Minnesota, and the recovery spot was directly off of a boat launch ramp.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Seamus.
I know her phone was found at least the day after she was missing. I have that confirmed by somebody very, very close to the case, that the police had already had her phone.
But this case was funny. I'll add too is that this Elliot's case was a national story at first when she went missing, and I think we all knew what was going on immediately. And Fox News and a lot of the other big media outlets they had their big reporters reporting about it. And it's funny, they tried to talk about the history of La Crosse, and they tried to pass it off as like a couple students drowned. And they mentioned that they had a river watch in La Crosse, but they didn't mention why they had a river watch. And people created a river watch in La Crosse specifically because of so many people being murdered and thrown into the water. And so they decided to have a river watch. And I actually know a guy that was one of the founding members, and the murder stopped for the most part, and watching the river. And then they moved over to Eclair. Been 2 river watches too. There's another one called the Bear Clan.
Is that the guy all the way up in Canada or whatever? Yeah,
that's right. Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay, yeah.
Which is where they had a bunch of young people being found in the water.
I think they were all indigenous too, right? They were all indigenous women, yeah.
But it was all in the same town, and they were all vanishing the same way and being put in the water. And there was some graffiti on a train where they found one of the bodies, and it said something very similar, like you're not looking for what you think you are, or something to those lines. So they started a Bear Clan river watch there, and I think the murders have stopped for the most part. Anyway, northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, all really hot places, I will add.
It is interesting that she showed up at the same thing. Like, though that park was a central component of the original Gilbert and Gannon book. Like, they
Correct.
always went back to that park in that area, the lacrosse. So to see this, and there were like stories of victims being followed by cars and
Yes.
central areas and bars where people
Brothers
came out of-
Bar.
yeah, drugs.
Multiple
Yep.
victims coming from Brothers, right, Cole?
Exactly. I want to know what she's doing on her phone in that picture, if that's the last released image they showed of her.
She's talking to somebody.
Right. Like,
But then somehow the phone's found on land, but then she's in water. Yeah, okay.
Right, exactly. So he's taken, and they put that phone out to taunt people and to tag where the victim is going to be found. You know that, obviously. They do this all the time. And it's funny that at that Riverside Park in La Crosse, though, that was like the worst of all, because there's been a couple places that I've seen where multiple victims have been dumped, and La Crosse was one of them. And again, I'll repeat, I know I just said that again, but it's so important. 5 separate personal belongings of 5 victims were found at that park at the feet of the chief statue. Like, that's not a conspiracy, guys. You know, again, something overlooked all the time.
I think there's something specific. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's something specific with that general area of Minnesota, Wisconsin, of this Native American Indian aspect or element in their like signing or wordplay or something. Because, yeah, I mean, and it also could just be, you know, those areas, they have heavily, their areas are named after those types, but it's just really influenced. Like Chris Jenkins dressed up as that the night he went missing.
Yep.
Right, like he was dressed as an Indian. That's right.
Where the Indian overlooks, or used to overlook, at Riverside Park is where 3 rivers come together.
Right.
So that's kind of where he was found. But again, one of the worst states, still one of the worst states. We're sitting there talking about all these cases. That's really where all these cases started, was in the Midwest. And remember, people used to say, 40 college kids in the Midwest. We are way past that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Big
It's
time.
way beyond. They used to call it the I-95 killer or whatever, because they thought someone was going down the interstate. Way past that.
I find it interesting that in La Crosse specifically, most, if not all, were on 3rd Street or Pearl Street in their last night alive, or at least taken. Out of all streets, I think it has one of the most, or the highest, bars per capita in the United States, and they're all last seen on 1 or 2 different streets.
Like 6th Street in Austin.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's like somebody's in the crowds, like they're moving through the crowds to do all this stuff. Wow. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's a tragedy. There's another one. This is Virginia, Miles McIntyre. That's you, Jim. Took a screenshot of this. This is August 2025. David Zapai, 24, from Poland.
Yep.
Where's this one? I forgot.
Personal
Just
belongings found near the water. Same thing.
Same story. Giovanni Pelletier. It's another one out of state. I think he was in Florida, this guy, right? This was all over the news. I remember.
Okay, so there's a case. This is a case that most people don't understand, that you just brought up. The kid in Florida, where he texted his mom help, and there's video of him running from a car, where he was in a car with 4 people he didn't know really well, and he ran from the car. That's what they said, and there's a video of him running, but then he ended up in the pond like a week later, exactly where he ran away from. And they said the people he was with didn't do it. And I absolutely believe this is a Smiley case. And he had drugs in the system. Everything surrounding this case.
Right.
In Manatee.
Just like the classic
Giovanni.
MO, yeah.
I mean, he texted his mom help. I mean, that's also a very common thing, as both you guys know, the butt dial telephone, the ghost call, or the last text before the people die. Very scary.
Is he the individual who was, I believe, meeting a distant relative for the first time?
Yes. Yep.
Wow, interesting. So he's out of his comfort zone somewhere else, found in a retention pond. Like, there's are places you would just pop back out of. I don't know if the guy can swim or not, but these are not like treacherous waters or anything, people.
Yeah,
Especially Joey LaButte's a perfect example. He was found in kind of like an eddy of the river. So he wasn't found like in the central part of the moving river of the Scioto. It was like almost like a pond.
Yeah.
19 days later, just Joey LaButte.
That's a big case. That's another very famous place that this has happened a lot of times in Columbus, Ohio, another college town. Obviously, the most famous case would be Brian Schaefer, which I think we just passed 20 years. Cole went there.
Yeah.
Cole, tell us. I mean, please. I just watched the thing. It sure makes it. I just watched a recent video about it in the last week, and just crazy.
They're still talking about Schaefer. Yeah. Wow.
All the people that want clicks and attention love to obsess about his case, but he is one of the original Smiley face cases, in my opinion. And
I agree.
So,
young
you've
guy,
been there, Cole.
all that stuff.
You've been there, Cole. Tell us.
I think, I mean, it probably looks completely different now than what it did 20 years ago. But, I mean, his case it's really, how do I want to put it? It's kind of watered down at this point, to be honest. After 20 years, people stop focusing on the right things or what they should be focusing on. They're really focused, I feel like, on like, how did he leave the bar, or just, they're really hyper focusing on the wrong questions when they should be focusing on other individuals. Like,
his roommate wouldn't even
Brian
answer
is not
questions.
here right now.
Sorry, Cole.
No, it's okay. What'd you say, Jim?
His roommate wouldn't even answer questions.
Exactly.
He was
lawyered up right away.
And then he was with 3 women the night before. I just watched this video about it and how, like, they didn't have Brian on camera, but you can put 2 and 2 together with the construction zone and the last time he was seen talking to people and the people he was with and his roommate. There's a lot of smoke there. You know, that's why they didn't capture him going out the front door. There's a construction zone in the building they were at, and you can go, and it leads out to the back in an alley right across the street from a big parking garage. That sounds like many cases I've read. Chris Jenkins, for one.
Yep.
And
Dave
police aren't
Portnoy.
trying.
No, they're
Sorry.
not. They're not trying. Dave Portnoy with a smiley face to pick that up. This is it. I think Blackburn. This is UK case. Just smiley face symbol all over like a lot of my social media. This guy tried to get me interested in this Miladi crypto cult. You guys ever hear of this?
No.
It has some kind of like, it's a crypto cult subculture, but they use the smiley face. They use kind of, and it has like this. It faced severe controversies tied to its founder's past, including allegations of extremism, grooming, and cult-like manipulation. But it's some kind of weird, kind of modern cult. It uses the smiley face. It's really weird.
These people are true believers who are ever doing this. They have a purpose. This is not, people are not just doing this just because, right? I mean, what we've seen just in the last month, I mean, has just been breathtaking. I mean, some of the worst crimes all over. I mean, we were talking, I've just covered 3 men in Michigan, all college kids, all 3 victims. 2 of them, one was a frat boy at University of Michigan. He died of hypothermia, so not in the water, but leaving a frat party, acting funny, same thing.
Right.
Had bruising. There's another guy named Tyler Bojanski. He was in Michigan. He vanished, leaving a bar, found in the water already. And then there's also Trenton Massey, who's still missing, and everybody's pretending like it was an accident. And this is 2 months ago. He still hasn't been found, leaving the bar. So, like, within a month, 3 young men in Michigan.
What cities were they in?
Ann Arbor. I'd have to think of the other 2. Off the top of my head, I can't. think. Oh boy, people are asking some really good questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with them, so I've got them kind of starred, so we can go back and
Okay.
look at them.
Yeah, definitely want to answer some of these.
Yeah, this is Stephen Williams. This is Stage Drownings. This is an example of Cole's work here. Name, date, disappeared when found. This is out of Pittsburgh, so that's another one. That's like right by where Jimmy Slack went in.
Yep.
Like, remember Slack? There were 3 too. It was Dakota James Slack and somebody else. I forgot whose name that was.
No, there's a bunch.
Paul Kochu.
Paul what? Kochu,
There's
yeah.
Paul Kochu, yep.
There was another guy though in Pennsylvania at the same time. I can't think of his name, but at the same time, Dakota.
Kochu's another one. CCTV. They got him walking around,
on his
acting
phone.
strange.
I mean, when that happened, Dakota, there was probably at least 9 or 10 other cases of young men that we tracked around the same time in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, in that area. Like
Yes.
there was one in like some city outside of
I think Stephen Williams' case that just happened that you just showed, William, is really interesting because it was open and closed very quick, and they instantly ruled it a homicide.
Wow.
I read the reporting on his case, and it said that he was followed from a hotel by people who avoided surveillance or something by going under like parking garage ramps and stuff, and they followed him onto the Riverwalk Trail, robbed him, and pushed him in the water. I want to know why they instantly ruled it a homicide. Did he have a gunshot to the head or something, or what? But they instantly arrested a guy who was responsible for that only a few days later.
Interesting. Did he know him? Was it like a personal thing?
It didn't say.
Interesting. Like I missed this case.
There's so many. It's easy to do. There's a ton. I mean, there was a kid in Tempe, Arizona. Mr. What's his name? Something Brown. He's 23 years old. Yeah, well, you want to talk about Houston? There's been like so many victims, but the police don't really understand what to do. I think a lot of them are African American, from what I've understood, and a lot of them do have blunt force trauma. I can tell you that I've confirmed that from people in law enforcement.
Wow, 12 in Houston in 2025. Here's another woman found there, so more females.
Well, the female wasn't a Houston student. She was University of Houston student, and they have her on camera walking away from a gas station, and then she was found in the canal like days later, and no reason, but basically getting picked up. Something again. Yeah, that's her.
Classic. Yeah.
Crazy though. On camera though, walking off. I mean, Texas has been by far the worst state in the last couple years for these crimes, and it's expanded. It's Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Corpus Christi.
It's incredible. Who would have thought that Texas would be like a central hub for all this stuff, you know? Like I never would have thought it would have moved to Texas. But it makes perfect sense because it's become more cosmopolitan and it's brought people from these other kind of left states like California, things like that.
Yeah. That's a great point. You know, California doesn't really have a lot of victims. I mean, I've seen some, but as far as other states and as big as California is,
yeah, it's weird.
Not really. You know, maybe in San Francisco a little bit in a couple places, but like nothing like Texas, nothing like Georgia, New York.
It is weird,
right? I mean,
they seem like battleground states.
Yeah, purple states or something like that. Maybe that's
interesting.
Like, look at all these cases in 2025 in Houston, just everywhere.
I mean, it's exploded. And we've been covering Houston for years because there were other victims before the media really picked up about in Houston. There was a guy named Cole in Houston. He was a victim, and he was at the Ronald McDonald House. Remember this? And his son was getting life-saving surgery, and he went to the bar and left, and he was never seen again, and they found him in the Riverwalk, and he had lots of trauma, and they said that, you know, that he fell, but we know that's not true.
Yeah, his family doesn't believe it. I've talked to his family.
Yep.
Here it is. This is like another example of the smiley face in culture. The Strangers, Chapter 2. The girl has the smiley face tat. There it is. These aren't accidental. There's so many horror films with that have the smiley face symbol associated with it.
There's been a lot of horror movies I've noticed. Cole and I were just talking about this past week, that there's been a lot of movies that have been made the last couple of years that none of them have been very good, but they're trying to incorporate what's happening into a movie, but they make it more supernatural, where there was just a movie where a person was being drugged into a pool, or they were being drugged into water. They're trying to sensationalize these murders. Yeah, no, what he's talking about at Levi's Creek, Lisa, I remember that was a kid, a couple guys pulled out of the creeks
in recent months. What are their names?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I have to look that up, because there was that one kid that was at this 49ers game. This is a couple years ago, and then he vanished from the game, and then they found him at the marina. Shocker.
Yeah, but they
by
found
Levi
him.
Stadium.
They found him in like a creek that doesn't even move fast. Is Ian Powers?
That's right.
2018. Good. He's in my book. Yeah.
Can we answer a couple of these questions?
Let's go. Let's do it. Here,
somebody brought up Moscow, Idaho, and I don't.
Okay, let's just start from the beginning. How about that?
Go for it. Okay.
So here's the first one. Jug asked, "Do you think there are any connections to the Process Church? Do either of you know the answer to that? Either of you two want to?"
Cole?
I've seen some of your stuff about the Process Church, William. I think that there's definitely some overlapping ideologies, but I personally don't believe that is the focal point of these murders.
I haven't seen it either. They're very similar things to the 09A2, where you commit crimes and get away with it. And there's other crimes that have been caught where people have been influenced by 09A ideology. Daniel Hussein comes to mind. Some of these other guys who've committed crimes who've been associated with the 09A, but it's hard to ascertain. I don't have any proof of process. What about you, Jim?
I don't, but I'm not going to say it's not true, just because, the people who are doing this, I've always said, are true believers. So they believe in what they're doing, and that's why people don't get caught. And it makes sense. That's why I started out as Smiley Face Cult, because something ties all of these people together.
And people are bonded by criminality. Whatever their crime is, drugs, sex trafficking, they do things to keep quiet, and they become more comfortable. Like the Epstein network shuts up because everybody's involved. So it's something like this is happening with these cases, in my opinion. My name is Nobody Asked. Have you ever done a measurement from location to location? How many miles do the lines intersect? Any symbols, etc.? Do you guys want to answer that?
Cole?
I've done some. Actually, that's a big thing of what I like doing, is mapping everything out. I like to visualize these cases and see them from last seen point to potential abduction spot to potential dump spot and recovery site. I know one of the big things I did was Brothers Bar. They have a ton of locations in the cities where these cases are happening. Obviously in La Crosse, Eau Claire. There was a Brothers Bar maybe a block away from where Chris Jenkins was in Minneapolis. I believe it's shut down now, but at the time, Brian Schaefer, he was at Brothers Bar reportedly the night he was missing. Wow. Dan Zamlin, Joey LaBute, all within a 1 mile radius of those bars. Walton Ward in Indiana State.
I knew his sister.
What does she make of his case?
She knows he was murdered. I used to think I was a tough guy when I was younger, and that this could never happen to me until I read Walton's case. And he was an MMA fighter. He was a tough dude, and his phone got turned off when he tried to call 911.
That reminds me of James Lidka in Eau Claire. I want to say he was a Marine.
Yeah.
Like these aren't just easily overpowered guys.
No.
He was the one they caught like at a fast food restaurant CCTV, right? He was never found too, right? Wasn't that the Liedtke? He had kind of a interesting last name.
Had a good memory. My goodness.
I think I wrote about him too. So that's that question. Cup of Coffee asks, do you think a frat group is involved? You guys want to answer that?
I'll say that I don't think a frat group is involved, but what I believe, and it's just my opinion, that people in fraternities are targeted. That the people doing this, that they want to kill frat boys. To me, it's just, we've seen so many. I mean, and it's always the same thing. People leaving the party, something, they start acting funny, and like maybe it looks like they've been drugged at the party, and then they leave by themselves, just like Lucas Matson and at the University of Michigan. The same thing that's happened. At a frat party, gone. So I personally think that fraternities are targeted. They hate them. They hate those people. There's been many fraternity victims in Minnesota, Wisconsin. I can think of some in Georgia, but Riley, of course. Somebody brought up Moscow, Idaho, and again, y'all don't have to share my opinion about Brian Kohlberger in Moscow, Idaho, but there were 2 victims put in creeks, and one of them was the murdered Forrest friend, like 3 minutes from their house, and they were leaving fraternity parties, and they all had trauma, both, and they were put in creeks. And this is before Kohlberger killed people. But again,
what was that kid's name? It was like, it wasn't even a creek. It was like
Hudson
like
Lindau.
It's in Lindau. I could jump like with a brisk jump. I could hop over it. Like it's a total
it's
joke.
absurd.
6 inches. It is. Totally.
The police just like, okay, we'll just wrap it up. He's dead. And it's so weird because he's literally pictured with the Kohlberger victims. Like he's literally in a picture with them
At the house.
Party. Yeah.
Annie was at a party with those 4 the night he was murdered, and he walked by himself out of the party. And the fact that little town won't expand what's going on, I personally, again, we're getting in deep here, but while we're talking to everybody, Kohlberger is involved in a lot more stuff. I've never thought he did that by himself. I do think he is involved. There were times when Hudson was murdered that there's proof that Kohlberger was living in Moscow, and we've argued about that, but that's been confirmed, and especially because they have his phone pinging all over Moscow, and specifically where Hudson was and the house months leading up to the 4 being murdered.
That's right. And doing weird driving, just driving in the middle of the night, like a hunter or something. Like
who kills people in the middle of the night, William?
It's SFK.
That's right. That's what's so funny is we talk about the times that this stuff happens, and it's always 1:30,
at night,
2 o'clock in the morning, 4 in the morning, where no one's up, no one's watching, and it's scary. I mean,
that's what Berkowitz said. Like he would just drive around in the middle of the night. These are night hunters. That's the whole thing that distinguishes these deaths as opposed to like accidental drownings or something like that. Like it's always at night. It's always somebody who gets separated and somebody who's not even intending to go in the water. It's just like, oh, they're found in water. Nobody sees them go. One of the things that distinguishes all these cases is nobody sees them go in water. You can take them out of the victim pool once you see somebody who goes in. Like, oh, Bob was sitting over there and then he tripped and fell in the water, even though that may be fake, but like you never hear that story in these types of cases. They're just found in water. That's the giveaway.
Yeah.
So frat groups I mean, there are suspicious deaths. Jim and I studied one of a black guy who was a frat member who died. I can't remember his name, but that's another family you knew.
His name was Joseph Smedley. Joseph Smedley at the University of Indiana.
Yeah, that's right.
Very smart. He was like biology major or something so crazy. But yeah, I know his sister. He texted his sister at 4 a.m, said that he loved her and that he was leaving the country and that he was sorry. And he got found like a week later, and again 6 inches of water, something like that. And
that's right.
His blood was drained, if I remember correctly, as well. Drained.
Right. There was that one lacrosse one where the guy was totally frozen too. Remember that one? The guy was found.
There's been a lot of those.
Yeah. So that's like, see, you see the criminal sophistication. Kohlberger was literally like a graduate student in criminology. Like this was this intelligent guy. This wasn't somebody who committed. I mean, it's whatever happened to those four didn't show a lot of premeditation. Like things must have gotten out of hand. But this is a guy who was intelligent enough to study under that woman, Ramsland, right? Like it is so weird, Koberger's story. I mean, just like I totally agree with you, Jim. In my instincts tell me this was not his first case. He was always traveling. He was driving at night. He drove from his hometown. I think it was in Pittsburgh or somewhere in Pennsylvania. He was driving out to Moscow. He would drive there and back. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
I mean, so that's just like he's moving through states, jurisdictional, like intelligence. Like I've seen other cases like that. This Eiler guy who was a gay killer, he would jump in between Indiana and Illinois because it was a jury. He'd confuse the cops. Like he was smart.
Two horrible states.
Yeah. Have you any in Detroit metropolitan? There's tons in Michigan and Detroit. There's so many cases, and they're listed in my book. You can see my documentaries. I think the original documentary where I did all the work and Jim was the researcher is still on Amazon.
Great book.
You can stream it. The book is out. I mean, it's interesting because you said this word at the beginning of our talk, Jim, chapters. And that's why I have the book laid out in chapters as more and more information comes in, It's almost like there's a new chapter, like, oh, crap, Chicago, Texas, international, Barcelona. So
new cases all the time, expanding all the time, not slowing down. I mean,
going back to what somebody said about Moscow, Idaho, what a lot of people don't know, along with Hudson's case, in 2013, there was a guy, Joseph Widerick, and he was found in the same creek as Hudson, and they said that he died of hypothermia.
But he had a head injury, and they said he slipped. Same as Hudson.
Oh, okay.
Both head wounds. Both leaving fraternity parties.
Right. I have to find a picture of where they found Hudson Lindau because people will laugh. It's such a joke.
It's in the middle of town. It's in the
middle of town.
Bridge.
The creek is a joke. It's
6
like
inches.
The memorial. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If that, it's just like, whoa.
I've seen that so many times, though, me personally, from visiting crime scenes where I've been to multiple crime scenes where the cause of death was drowning and the water's less than 6 feet deep. 6 inches deep, not 6 feet, 6 inches deep. And they say, oh, well, he died of hypothermia and drowning.
I mean, it's just like these. That's why, like, it's so important to have researchers because even some of these stories, they don't keep them up. They're not maintained at certain things. Like, you really find them.
Well, it's also worse than that, too, though, Will, because there's certain people on the internet in the true crime community that all they want is attention. These are narcissist people. They don't care about anything. And there are people that try to undermine these arguments all the time for no reason other than just to get attention. They don't care about these people being murdered. It's so frustrating.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, one of the worst is that Rose lady on Twitter. And I hope she's listening. I definitely, she's one of the worst people on the internet and has a huge following of people. And she constantly says, there's the bridge, the wrong thing, intentionally.
Yeah, or what's Kofendaffer or some of these other women.
Yeah,
she's terrible. She's one of the worst things to happen to you. Have to call it false crime. Like, that's my opinion.
Correct.
Like, wow,
this is the exact same thing. Right.
This is a Hudson Lindau. Let me see if I can get this to it says Hudson. If you look at that yellow cross, the writing says Hudson Lindau. And I can't see the other stuff, but this is where he supposedly tripped and fell.
Guess how close that is to the murder house that was torn down.
You almost could see it. Like if you look to the upper left, that's like right near where the murder house is.
It's a 3-minute walk, they said.
If that, yeah. It's so
3 months, but 3 months. Let me
see if I can find it on the map.
3 months before the 4 were murdered? I mean, come on, guys. At the same fraternity party with all 4 others? This is what frustrates me. Because, I mean, that's right in front of our face, guys. I mean,
it's just like the police are just negligent to the point of like, you guys are involved in the cover up in so many of these cases. There just is no doubt about it. Like, come on.
So another place that just happened, I know Cole had some tweets. I tweeted too about Des Moines, Iowa, which is another place that's had these murders for 20 years. They've had 5 bodies in the last 2 months in the Des Moines River. 5.
Wow. Pulled an identified woman from Trempealeau, Wisconsin. Damn sick. She'd been in the water while their 2 adult females were missing from Winona, Wisconsin. Okay. Yeah, Tara, that is the Manchester Pusher. I did a show with a guy named Gary J.
Yep.
Did a video with him a long time ago. It's under Manchester Pusher. You can check it out, but that's the name they give it in Manchester.
Yeah, and I asked Grok if what's the most dangerous place for young men in the world out drinking, and I asked him about Austin, Manchester, Chicago, a couple of the lacrosse. They said Manchester's absolutely the worst. Grok said that.
Wow, that's crazy.
They've have over 100. They've have well over 100 young men have been murdered there.
And some are really obvious, like the guy's calling home screaming to his mom, like,
Yes,
like it's on tape. Like,
yes,
I forgot his name offhand, but like
Henry McCabe.
Henry McCabe, yeah, that's is that Michigan or where is that?
that was Wisconsin,
Wisconsin, yeah,
and that's on the other side of on the other side of Thunder Bay, out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, they let his wife listen on the phone for 2 minutes while they tortured him.
That's right. So it was 122 King Road. Like, I mean, okay, so this, I'm just going to give people an idea of how close Hudson Lindau was to this. Let's see. Share screen.
I have it somewhere on mapped out on my Twitter somewhere. It's probably old, but
yeah.
Cup of Coffee 7220. How big is the Smiley group? That's a great question. Obviously very big, because just go by the amount of bodies in certain areas like Austin. We're probably at 70, some people think, maybe more in Austin. I count probably 50 to 70, if you, depending on what cases you want to look at. In Georgia alone, probably another 50 to 100 in Wisconsin and Minnesota each, probably 100 in Illinois. This is going on like 20 years in a lot of these places. New York, New Jersey, probably 100. I mean, people don't know how, where it's bad, it is real bad.
Yeah, it's international. They speak in codes just like a mob. They communicate through the dark web or through encrypted chats. Like, even, I mean, one of the interesting things you learn about how some of these kind of secretive groups operate is when I studied the 09A, they were smart enough to use PGP cryptography, which you can only really force break that if you have access to like government supercomputers. Well, maybe not so much now. Maybe the AI can do it, but back in the day, that was kind of unbreakable by the public.
Whoa.
Curious. Exist any female or trans male victims in these points of similarity? Do any of you guys want to answer those?
I don't know of any specific transgender victims, to be honest. I really don't. There's none that immediately come to my mind.
It's a good point. Nothing comes to mind.
Mine either.
There's trans perpetrators involved.
Correct.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes. Like Scarlett Blake, or I forget their actual name, Fangji Shui or something like that.
Fangji Wang, or maybe.
Yes.
Aria Adams.
Yes. Yes. Nas Rahimi's case.
Yes.
Yep.
You know,
still
that's the other thing is that, like, when I first went over that case, it never registered to me that person was transgender. I'd always thought it was a woman. And then, like, at the end, you see her with some dude with a smiley face pendant. Like, you just go, what is this culture? What is going on?
It's so much worse. I don't want to get off on a tangent talking about just one case, but that case specifically, I'll say real fast, though she was trans and friends with people inside of the Bondism scene in Atlanta.
Yeah, the BDSM bondage.
They were at the gayest bar in Atlanta called the Eagle that ended up suing the police years back because men were having sex in the bar and people were watching, and they raided the bar, and the cops put all the gay guys on the floor, and they ended up getting sued. The city of Atlanta got sued because of that. Wow. It's called the Eagle. That's the gayest bar, and that's where they took Nas, and that's who they're friends, and they were all posting the exact same thing on their social media, almost verbatim. Our friend's missing. We're very concerned. We hope nothing's happened to him. He had so much trauma that the police said that it looked like he was hit by a car, and that was 3/4 of a mile into the woods into the creek, and I've been there. And they scrubbed the internet of any details when he was found. Good luck trying to find it. It's already gone. I saw it one time. I should have copied it, and I did it. And they won't give me the police report either, by the way.
That's what happens, man. They just minimize the information. Naz Muhammad was from Australia.
Correct.
And somebody sent me an email. I knew this guy. I was like, well, what he was like. So he was on the kind of coming out journey from to gay. And so that was what he was kind of doing in the States, was discovering his homosexual sexuality. And then he met up some people, and then he didn't make it. So, EJ, thanks for the $20 super chat. Really appreciate it. Leaving the people in water to cover waterboarding, smiley face formed by duct tape over eyes and mouth. See a blood cult water torture. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Possible.
One of the things that come to mind about the water torture is the football player in Michigan. Somebody mentioned Michigan cases, and this was very heavily covered by the media. What was that football player's name, Jim?
Oh boy, that's a long case ago. He was an NFL player. It was on Memorial Day weekend. His name was, I forget. I talked to the doctor who actually did the autopsy on him. Wow. His name, what is his name? Played for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, Colin Finnerty was a college player. Yeah, Colin Finnerty.
Colin Finnerty was a survivor, wasn't he?
Colin Finnerty. Okay, you can read about Colin Finnerty is in my book.
You're right.
Jim,
you're right.
You were the one who told me about Finnerty. Finnerty was a hunter. He had CTE. He had been the #1 player 2 years in a row for B-level college. He had won the national championships. And he was going to a place. Then he calls his wife, "I'm being followed," and then he disappears.
He was.
And then there's a huge search. Yeah, he's terrified.
Terrified.
This is a football player. This guy's 220 pounds. Yeah.
He said 2 people were following me, and they were out boating, and this is in Michigan on Memorial Day, and it was Grand Valley State University. Okay, that's the team you were talking about. Yeah. So he said 2 people were following him, and he was scared to death. And this guy is 6'4", 240. This is
big dude.
Or he was. He was a very big guy, just like you just said. But to be scared, right? Said he was scared. So his wife and the people they were with rushed over there in their boat, and he was gone. And they don't know what happened to him, but people heard people howling and celebrating at night nearby. And he was dumped. He didn't make it in the water. He was actually face down and close to the river, close to the water. I think they were trying to get him there. But I talked to the doctor. Go ahead.
I was just saying he was found in a place already searched, like all these other cases. Go ahead.
He was, and they did a huge article about his death and his autopsy, and the doctor who did it was mentioned. So I called him when this happened, and we talked about it, and he let me ask him questions, and he didn't have any trauma, but he had been face down, and it looked like the doctor said that it looked like he had been drugged from the road based on the his injuries. So pretty interesting.
There was a really good documentary about him, the mysterious element of his death. And the interesting thing is that I know somebody who decided to literally look into his case with a remote viewing session. And one of the things about that's in my book, so you can see it. It's chapter N. the suspicious disappearance and death of Colin Finnerty remote viewing and confirmation of the SFK modus operandi, which ties into this comment right here, is because he had very suspicious movements of a cell phone, much like many other cases where the cell phones do weird stuff. They're either broken, turned on and off, or going north. Guys walking north, and all of a sudden the cell phone goes south.
That's right. Great point.
Finnerty's thing was triggered moving around in weird ways. And this remote viewer, this person, you can read it in my book. The remote viewer is in Europe, knows nothing. The remote viewing is like a sterile environment.
Wow.
You're not allowed to know anything about this case. And they're just asking simple questions. What is this person? The remote viewer came back and said, Finnerty was abducted, taken somewhere. And the remote viewer said he had something over his face and water was poured on his face in a box. So he was shoved in a box and water was poured over his face, which is totally consistent with these other things that I did back in 2017 with just fake drownings, not actual drownings in the water, but pre-drowning or pre-water torture. So it all ties in together with your comment, EJ, and what the remote viewer found about Finnerty. And really interesting. So it's worth a read. Like you can read the answers and questions in the book. I have like 10 pages of it, and it's just off the charts.
I'm going to go back and read it as soon as we get off here today. But I'm reading the case about it, and he was late night fishing, which has been we've seen many people out fishing. Dangerous. We don't report that very often, and then they're found in water. I mean, this has happened multiple places. There's been people fishing in tournaments lately. Young men down in Austin, Texas was the most recent one. Anyway, the doctor who went over Colin Finnerty's autopsy I spoke to was Stephen Cole. And you're right about his phone. His phone pinged 9 miles north when he vanished. And then it turned off, or I can't remember exactly, but I called the medical examiner, Stephen Cole, after this happened, and it was in the media, and I specifically asked him, and he was shocked that somebody was calling him to ask him about this. But
interesting.
Crazy. He talked to me. He was very nice.
This is from the remote viewing. This guy, the remote viewer, has no idea about everything. This is all like things that were done by the CIA. Something I'm getting, this is very weird, says the remote viewer. Finnerty is getting, this is very confusing for me. Now, the guy who's the kind of medium is like, okay, sorry, go ahead. Finnerty is receiving like many vaccinations, think injections, right here at this location, not at a hospital. Whoa. What they gave Finnerty, something liquid. We're finally getting to the root of the matter. Something liquid keeps coming over him, over his upper body or face. What does that mean? The remote viewer groans. I'm going from here to here, draw something covering a sitting figure's face from the neck to the head's crown. In this area, they put something on him that totally exhausts him. I still don't know what to make of this, says the questioner, the viewer. Let me try drawing it. It's like a rag, and it's wet. It's full of liquid, and they put it on Finnerty's face like that. Then they remove it and put it back on. I see. So when he tries to breathe, right. He's getting less and less oxygen, and eventually, I don't know, might die from exhaustion, period. Ask whether all involved were humans. The response. Oh, shoot.
Wow.
They are all human. And then draws a map. The viewer draws a simple map with a rough grid based on an actual map is showing these locations. 1, where Finnerty was dropped off for fishing. 2, location where he made his call. And 3, location where his body was found. The questioner to the remote viewer. Finnerty alone while going from 1 to 2. The viewer says at some specific point on that path, others were showing up. And then the question, Finnerty getting from 2 to 3. He is being brought. Question, how do they carry him? Viewer. Now there's this feeling from very beginning again. Like something is being cooled. A refrigerator truck or ice cubes or something like that. So in other words, by car, viewer, yes. I have the whole thing. There's like 40 pages of it. I just minimized it. That's in my book. Check it out.
How did I miss that? That's amazing.
It's a long book. It's 400 pages, guys.
I read that. I don't remember that part. But thank you.
Yeah. Great questions, guys. Great comments. We got about 300 live listeners, so thanks everybody for listening. I'll try to catch up with the questions. Let's see. This guy, El Riva man, drowned. Another pandering. So like sometimes they're involved with like, involved in hustling or something. There's a lot of gay twinks. Jacob Rosado is a case I saw. This is Strange Drownings. This is the Grinder serial killer, which kind of ties in Stephen Port. Durham River deaths, Oxford and Cambridge. This was kind of a long one. These were like 3 in there. Ewan Coulthard. I mean, it's interesting. He takes a picture by a river, and then he's found in a river. Cause of death for Henderson, Nevada resident Jack Griebling was found floating off the coast near Refugio. This is California case. Somebody alerted me to. Santa Barbara Patrol. 6 body pulled from Houston again. This is from October 2025. 3rd body found in Brooklyn's Newtown Creek. This is another big one from 2024. So there was like, I write about this in my book too. Like it's almost impossible to keep up. Crazy. Chance Engelbert. You guys remember this case? This is Wyoming.
I do.
I remember this one.
Yep.
That's drowning. That's you, Jim. Here's another. This is a female one. Megan Turner, 32, found dead in Cedar River, Lansing. Violinist Juilliard. Why is her background not being reported? So this was like
Again,
an elite
talented,
violence.
really smart. Again, I thought she was a victim when I saw that.
She was found right by most other East Lansing victims too. In the reporting, they say right off of or right beside Cedar Village Apartments, which is where at least 2 other young men, even though she's a woman, where 2 other young men were at least last seen and then later found in the water. I want to say their names are Ryan Getz and Eric Blair, I believe.
God, got a good
Getz.
memory.
I remember Getz, Goetz, right?
Yeah,
The one that's close to Finnerty was another major case, in my opinion, which was Todd Geib.
Yes.
Todd Geib, which was south of the park where Finnerty was. And he left in the middle of the night and then died. And then there were people like stalking the family. And then somebody went to his grave and on it was a smiley face picture. And they have a picture of it. It's in my book.
Put a sticker on it.
Put a sticker on it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
really sad. There's a lot of victims. Michigan State University. I mean, young kids, people talking. Yeah.
Dahmer drove around
Jeffrey
too.
Dahmer only
these
murdered 1
guys.
people at one time.
Yeah. It's amazing stuff. Like it's just so long. Tara, the documentaries. I did 2 documentaries. People don't know. The first one was 3.5 hours. Second 2 hours, and then my book is over 400 pages. Tons of information. Like just from so many different like people involved. That's the whole thing. Is people like may see one researcher. No, there's tens. There's Jim. There's Cole. There's me. There's other people involved, and a lot of really new guys who are doing a great job too.
Yeah, it would be fun to have have a bigger discussion sometimes.
would.
I know I did something with our friends on the Occult Rejects, and we had multiple people, and it was great. You were there, and we did so much. It was such a great discussion. I would love to get a couple people like Igor, JJ Vance, our friend who, what's his name? The other gentleman. There's a couple people, but we really should get together because I learned so much from different researchers than just myself. I find people always have new stuff. You want to talk about Little John's son?
Little John, who's that?
He's the rapper who created crunk rap music in Atlanta. He is a superstar here. Has been. Little John.
Let's talk about
He
it.
He says his catch thing is yeah, right? That's how he's famous. He made crunk rap. He's a bodybuilder now.
Interesting.
But he's Atlanta royalty, and his son a couple weeks ago vanished, and they live in Alpharetta, Georgia, and he vanished, and 27 days later they found him at the pond at the apartment where they lived. and I went there.
Wow. So this guy right here.
That's him. Yep. His son was found in a pond missing 27 days. The pond is nothing. There's no way he was in that pond 27 days. And I went and investigated the crime scene just recently, and some pretty interesting stuff that's going on. I did find graffiti. I'm not saying it's connected, but there was no graffiti anywhere else, and the graffiti was in a tunnel that leads to the pond. Yep, there it is, right there.
Wow, it looks terrifying. It looks lethal, man. You could easily trip in and fall and die.
That's
Like,
probably 6 feet deep, I bet, 8 feet deep tops. You know,
Yeah.
And he had mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms in his system. That was the thing that stuck out the most. But again, I don't want to talk too much, but there was another victim a couple days later, and he was an 85-year-old man, and he vanished from the same spot where Little John was. That's where his phone was last pinged, in the same area of Georgia, Alpharetta. And they vanished. This guy ended up in Lake Lanier in his car, submerged on a boat ramp. And he's the third victim at that park. I don't know any other places in Georgia that are like that. In fact, I can only think of 3 places. Lady Bird Lake, 7 victims are in one spot. I can think of the Salt Shed, 3 victims there.
Right. That's Brooklyn,
Chicago,
right?
Chicago.
Oh,
Brooklyn is the Mirage.
Mirage.
3 victims there in the creek, maybe more. And then there's this place in Lake Lanier, which is on the lake. It's just a park, like a lot of the victims.
Tara, find a video of that remote viewing session. Is there one? I don't think there's a video at all, but there is a full record. I can probably bring it up. I didn't include the whole thing in my book. I can do another show. I'll send it to you guys. I'll send it to Jim, and maybe our next show, Jim and Cole, and we can go over that remote viewing session, because I think it's very telling. There's also been other psychics. That one girl I included in my book as well is, what's her name? She did such a great job on the Smiley Face Killings and West Memphis 3. Do you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, Chloe Bell. Yeah. Do you know about her, Cole?
Yeah. I've seen some of her stuff. I watched her video on Riley Strain. I think she did a great job on that. And I have my I don't know, doubts with those kind of things, but I think what she said was very accurate. If I remember correctly, she said a question she was asked was, how big are these groups, or how big is this whole thing? And her answer, or the reply, or something that she received or said, was that there are legions of them.
Right. She used the word legion, right? That's what Riley saw, was legions. And she said something was very out of, which to me is actually gives her more credibility, is she brought something into the Smiley Face kind of knowledge base that I had never heard of. But she said it goes back to the kind of music scene of the 80s of Chicago. And that's where the beginning, and it evolved. In that time, there were a lot of black cars and limos. And you see that theme all the way up to the present. So maybe these, and I've heard stories about other record producers who are like Diddy, like they're very dark. And so she brought that up, and it made me think this gives her even more credibility. I have suspicions about psychics too, but her story, her feelings, or whatever she was getting, had consistency and rhymed with the facts that I know, and I know a lot. So yeah, she was interesting. Sloan Bella, she did a great job, and she didn't believe the baloney like fake crime analyses. EJ, thanks for the super chat. I saw 2 of the Smiley Faces before I knew about the cases. At the time, I was impressed they were perfect circles. I thought it had to be a stamp to make 2 perfect circles. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the symbol has occult stuff.
For sure. So much about the moon and the cycles, right? And the dates and the holidays. Why? First day of spring, Easter, Christmas, New Year's, Halloween. The murders this year, every year, they really took off from Halloween, and that seemed to be the kickoff. And then it has just been gangbusters up until we're talking right now.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really incredible. All right, I got a couple new questions. Let's see. Jeff M asks, are there any indications that any police are involved? Are smaller cities chosen on purpose? Would either of you like to address that?
Yeah, I'd say I think in some cases police are definitely involved. Uh, in Wisconsin, in Eau Claire, there was a case in 2004. His name is Jesse Miller, and in the police report, it and in all the reporting, even on like footprints at the river's edge, that's a great site.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic.
They say that an officer responded to him, and he was alive at this point, and the victim Jesse looks at him and says, "You have no idea what's going on here," and just turns around and proceeds to just walk in the water, never to be seen again. What, this officer doesn't stop him or say, "What do you mean by that?"
That's right. Right point. I would say yes, that police are involved in some way in these cases. I would be hesitant to say that until recently. I've not wanted to believe that, but a lot of evidence say there is.
There seems to be some kind of like bureaucratic involvement where they just don't want to disclose the facts, and the cops are not encouraged to come out and share things. Riley Strange is a perfect example, the one that Sloan Bella analyzed, and that was it was really international news, and how quick they were to wrap it up. Oh, he was found dead, done. He drowned out and moved forward. The guy had like his pants missing and his shoes missing, and his cell phone wasn't on him. And,
no water in his lungs.
Oh yeah, there were rumors of that, stories of that. Like
that was a fact.
Yeah, they just move forward. Like, we're just moving forward, guys. And it's like, wow, this guy was disappeared for 2 weeks. What's going on? He should have been found within 3 days. If you look at like the data from criminologists and stuff like that, drownings are usually found real drownings are found very close to where they went in the water. 90% of them are found in like 3 days, guys.
It takes 3 days for the gases to make a body.
You can validate what I just said. You could literally put it into AI and they'll go, yeah.
Correct. Except if the water's really cold. The water's really cold, it takes longer to come up because of decomp, but still fast. I mean,
but the other thing is that people are looking for the body. So if they go into the lake at a certain spot, police will go and find it. One of the interesting things about Riley Strain is they had a guy, like a special scuba guy, who literally mapped out where they thought Riley went in, like in a very specific thing. He's like, "There's nothing here." He even says on video, "This doesn't make any sense," because it doesn't. So, good question.
Sure don't.
Zizzy says, drugging and pimping sound familiar. Probably. There's probably drugs around a lot of pimps. Cup of Coffee asks, does almost every case have blood draining for adrenaline? Do you guys want to answer that?
No. It's only been a couple cases that I've seen, but more than one where the blood has been drained.
Yeah, that's me too. I don't. They're very rare. There are a lot that are injuries, and they're just not reported. But
that's a fact. Yeah. That's something that took me a long time to figure out, because if you just go by what the media says and the police, they say, "Oh, there's no trauma, there's no injuries," and then you get a chance to talk to somebody's family, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's beat. It looks like he's beaten his teeth. He's got all kinds of bruising, all his injuries, and weird."
Yeah, it happened with McNeil. McNeil and the person who did the autopsy was Cyril Weck. The family didn't know for 10 years that the son had been hit in the head with a ball peen hammer and blowtorched.
Tied around his neck, just like Dakota. Yeah. Mason Cox and David Wood were murdered together on New Year's Day here in Georgia in 2016. That's one of the cases that really drive me, and I'm really invested in, because two best friends were murdered on Lake Lanier at the same time. And I've already talked about this many times. I won't bore y'all, but that Mason's mom showed me a picture of her son after he had been deceased, and he had bruising and he had been beaten. And the police said there was no injuries. His teeth were cracked. So he had been beaten, and people heard him and David at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning at the neighborhood Lake Lanier, screaming for help. And That was not reported either.
You don't bruise when you're dead.
Correct.
Your body does not bruise. So
it's funny you should say that, because what just happened with Jimmy Gracie when they found him in Barcelona, that it was reported at the very bottom in a small thing that he had bruising on his chest, and police just assumed it was from him hitting the dock. But I don't think that he wouldn't have bruised if he'd have been dead.
The Austria spa death is a good one. I can't remember the guy's name, but that's another case. Like, he was in some kind of gay spa, if I remember, and then he ran and jumped in the water, supposedly. Like, you can't believe some of these stories, but like, he jumped into the what's the river that runs through Austria? But it's not like a raging river, and then he died. That's another case. I mean, this is one of the Euro cases.
Yeah, Europe is really bad. Obviously, the whole UK, but gosh, Ireland has gotten really bad, and so has Scotland. Ireland specifically, and I wondered if it was because of the they've been having a lot of issues with the what am I trying to say? The people from Africa that they're taking into Ireland, and they're coming in on boats, and they've been accepting the refugees. That's what I'm trying to say. And people in Ireland have been so mad because it's like everyone's white and redheaded, and it's all Ireland, and people don't like that the refugees are coming. And since the refugees have been starting to come, there's been more of these young men that are vanishing in Ireland and being found in the water at the exact time, and it's actually growing. I mean,
wow, I'll have to look into that. I'm not
please.
Aware of that. There was one kid, I think his name was Donnelly, who disappeared, and he was found like shoved in a or something. Like there's been like random deaths and stuff.
You mean in the wrestling mat?
Yeah. No.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, it was a 14-year-old kid. I think I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Blues Johnson Traveler. Is there sex involved? Drugs found in blood testing, research, military psychiatry?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of victims are dying or have ethanol poisoning or alcohol poisoning, where it's almost like they've been fed like Elliot, where people say they don't have they didn't have any drinks, but their blood alcohol is like 2.6 or something crazy, where it's not even possible they drank that much, and it looks like they've been force fed. A lot of the victims in Austin have looked like they've had ethanol shoved down their throats.
There's drugs, GHB, like the original researchers, Gann and Gilbertson, found over higher amounts of GHB. And all these people are consistent with being drugged with something. The police don't check. Yeah. Like, I remember that one kid. Yeah, go ahead. Cool.
Oh, sorry, William. I was going to say, I think the most known, or maybe not even known, but you included this in your documentary on this topic. Stephen Port in the UK. I mean, that was his exact MO, was going on these gay dating apps and using GHB and drugging them, taking them home. And he didn't put them in water, but he staged their death to look like overdoses and put them in a graveyard with fake suicide notes.
Right. So you see like his intent to cover himself up. Look up Reynard Sinaga, the most successful, by the own UK police's admission, the most expansive rapist in the UK history. Like, the guy raped, and what his MO was to get up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night and go to these bars and hunt for dudes and bring them back for drinks to his place, spike the drink and rape them and film it. And then his victims had no idea that it happened. And then if you look at Reynard Sinaga, he does not look like a predator. He's like a guy from Indonesia. He's a foreigner. And, he just does not look like danger. So you could see why these people are like, wow, he's not going to beat me up, but he's going to drug you. And I had all the evidence. And they say that he raped 275 different people. Yikes. And the people didn't know. Yikes. They had no idea. And he was like in the LGBT community, and he was all over the CCTVs, but they didn't have any evidence anyway. And he was part of this other church, a very liberal church called St. John of Christus. So externally, he was like, a church guy and a very nice, unassuming person. But No, he wasn't. And they never busted him for any murder. So he might have had victims, people who OD'd or died, who got thrown in the locks or the canals of Manchester. I don't know. But, so we can't assume that all these guys, when they get caught for something, that it's the first time, much like Scarlet Blake. Like you talk about Koberger as a repeat offender. I bet Scarlet Blake was doing this, who traveled to the U.S., who had contacts in Colorado and Austin. That's who ratted him out, as a guy from Austin. Like, this is so you don't know what's going on. There's just all kinds of stuff.
Something bad.
Yeah, bad stuff.
His
Jen,
contact in Austin goes back to what we were literally just saying about somebody asked about if any victims or perpetrators were transgender. His contact in Austin was on these like online prostitution type sites, and both the Scarlet Blake and their person in Austin were both transgender.
right, under a different name, right? So I can't even remember the person Scarlet Blake was talking to. And that person had all the regalia of the 09A. They took pictures of like in the forest with guns and a downward facing pentagram and stuff. Like, it is so weird. Like, these guys are into really dark online subcultures. Either of you want to answer this question? Do you know if they are highly intelligent men? Are you saying the victims or the perpetrators, Jen? I think that some of the perpetrators are highly intelligent, and the people they're going after are college-age person. That college is it. So a lot of these people are in college.
Very smart college kids, though. I mean, like, these are neuroscientists, engineers, bioengineering. I mean, really smart people that are definitely targeted, and the killers are smart. These are not dumb thugs. These are they know, they're disciplined. They stick to the plan. They don't do anything if something's out of a line. They're able to not. There's a reason why people are not able to come out and narc on these people, and that this hasn't been busted. Something's happening here.
Right. It's some kind of hierarchy. I remember you mentioned Tommy Booth, Cole, and that was like weird. Like, he had told his uncle or somebody, like, I'm hanging out with really weird people, and I don't want them around, and I don't want to be around them anymore.
Yeah.
And like, so these are kind of like precursors. So maybe they were trying to get him, and then all of a sudden he goes to this bar at this party at this bar, and the guy who's playing guitar is wearing a smiley face shirt, and then he ends up disappeared for 8 days, then magically appears in this freaking small creek behind the bar he disappeared in with cigarette burns and suspicious graffiti, right?
Yep, that's literally. I have a post on my account where I compare different graffiti sets. It's like 3 different ones, and one of them was from Tommy Booth's case. Yeah, there's definitely graffiti there that these people put at the scene there. Even in if you look at Gannon's book, you can see drag marks in the mud as if somebody was like dragging him by his feet and just dropped him.
Right. And where was he for 8 days? I don't think he was dead for 8 days too, if I remember correctly.
No, he was in. I think he was in full rigor mortis, like his arms were stiff.
Right. So he had just died. That's an indicator he had just died, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually that graffiti is your icon, right, for your stage drowning. Like, I think some of that graffiti.
That's from Tommy Booth's case.
Yeah. Question, Zizix, do you all SF investigators have a set of criteria, standardized or not, used to qualify as an SFK victim or perpetrator? Would you like to answer that?
Yeah,
I do. I mean, I do, but mine's a little bit bigger than everybody else's. But I've always just tried to collect the data. I want the data to teach me who are being targeted, other than what we just thought were just young college-age men. I feel strongly that young college-age men are the most people that are being murdered, but I've seen college girls. I've seen elderly people. So there's a wide variety of people, all colors, different races. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Each different races of victims, too, seem to correlate more with different areas, if that makes sense, where in the Pacific Northwest, you may see more Asian Americans that are murdered. Here in the South, obviously, maybe more Black Americans murdered. Hispanics in other parts of the country, Illinois and Indiana specifically, there's been more Hispanics murdered this way. So it makes you think that the killers maybe look like the victims.
Right. That's actually common. Like a lot of like serial killers move within their own ethnic groups. Not always the truth. But there are criteria for victims. It's always the same. I enumerate it very clearly at the very beginning of my book, which is young man out at night, change in behavior, separated from party. Nobody sees him go into water, found dead in water.
Vanishing.
Right. All these are the same. Nobody sees every case we've talked about, nobody's seen these people go in water. And if once somebody goes and sees in water, they're taken out of the pool. Like there was a guy in California who was acting crazy and then he fell in and drowned. And I'm like, well, that story may be fake, but I'm not going to put it into this pool. So there's probably like Jim probably has more, but I probably have 50 people who are like, the story doesn't add up, but I'm not putting it into the larger pool.
Yeah, I do a ton of that. I try really hard not to put stuff out that is just an accident or something else. I really do. I think it's tough to stay disciplined like that, but I feel like you have to. But I'm looking for people that vanished. I'm looking for people whose families say the same thing. I don't know what happened to them. They're gone. You know, he's such a nice young man, or, you know, it's the same thing over and over and over again. You read these articles, you know, police are confused, you know, or how a person ended up in the water, or family destroyed. Just they all read the same.
Yeah.
Right. And
not a big drinker. Dakota James only had 1 or 2 drinks at a time. You know, some of these guys aren't. Like that one guy who was Martinez or Rodriguez.
That's him. Martin Gutierrez.
Gutierrez, yeah, good memory. That guy, like, he was a bodybuilder with his brother, and he only liked to drink like 1 drink at a time. He was health conscious.
Yeah,
like, and all of a sudden he acts out of character and disappears.
He was the person I was referencing about money trying to be taken from his bank after he died in Austin, and that's the only time I've ever seen that. And Martin, I watched a special on him. Like all the other victims, they're watching him, and he walks out a view of the last camera, and that is where he is gone.
Right.
Gone.
And out of
Trauma.
Personality. It's not a standard personality. Seemed like a level-headed guy. Yeah.
We know too much about Austin to know that these aren't accidents happening.
Yeah.
Because we
They're
know
covering it
families
up,
and,
dude.
you know, I mean, it's just really breathtaking how many murders they've gotten away with pretending they're accidents in Austin, Texas, because they're not being shy about dumping bodies.
They're definitely not. Anybody want to answer this? Adam is everywhere. Are they going after females now as well?
Yes.
Yes. That's pretty new, though. I would say that's the last couple years that there's been more women, more young girls. They like to put them in submerged cars the most, right? My opinion, on boat ramps in their cars. A lot of times in the back seat.
Yeah, that was that one in Tahoe,
Chicago.
right?
Tahoe?
What was that girl? Like, it was all over the news. Like, she disappeared, and then she was found in the back of her car after a boat ramp or something.
Keeley.
Teely, yeah.
Keeley with an R.
Yeah, that was really
Yes.
suspicious.
Same deal. Her window was busted out, and she was in the back seat.
Yeah.
They didn't find her body at first. Yeah.
Classic. So, yes, they are. There's a very famous case in the UK. Maybe one of you guys could mention it, but she was all over the news in the UK, and it was a classic SFK.
Bully.
She was out. Bully, yeah. Sandra Bully, is that right?
No.
Something tomorrow. It's Bulley.
It's God bless. She is a victim. And
100%. Nicola Bully.
Nicola Bully. Yes.
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring this is like the classic application of the SFK phenomenon to a female.
Yep.
2023, not that long ago. Accidental drowning, baloney. This is just complete bull crap. Then like she's missing January, found February 19th after a massive search, working hypotheses. Police divers, helicopters, sniffer dogs, drones found no body. She's not there. That's why they didn't find it, you dingbats. It makes you crazy. This is the river.
People obsess over that all the time. I see stuff on Nicola Bully all the time, and they've been doing new research and like investigations with divers where she was found, and they tried to say that she should have been able to easily crawl out of the water. I mean,
look at this stuff, man. It's basically a placid lake, and she's found upstream from the water flow too, is my understanding.
Sure, bud.
It's just like, how did they always get submerged all the way? Like, you would think like maybe some part of the water body would be out of the water. I don't know.
Well,
but that whole story.
If you die on land and you're dumped in water after you die on land, you're gonna sink because you already died. Where when you die in water and it's a natural drowning, your body inhales water and you don't sink to the bottom immediately. At least that's what I've been told.
Right. Yeah, if you want to share your screen, Cole, all you got to do is you hit that kind of button with the plus sign, and then it'll bring up, and you can bring it up, and then I can bring it in. Or I can bring up anything that you brought in, too. So anything that you gave me, I can bring up as well, just at your convenience. Full transcription. I can put a full transcription of the.
There you go.
Thank you, Jen. Sure. Super sticker. Thank you for that. Ketchum says, in your opinion, William, Jim, and Cole, was Brian Schaefer a victim of the smiley face killers, and what really happened? You guys want to comment?
100%.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I will take a different take. The same guy who remote viewed Cole Infinity remote viewed Brian Schaefer and said he was alive in South America, and that he skipped town. So I don't know. I don't know if he was.
Yeah. No, he's dead. He dead.
Let's see. Have you tried to present anything on this before, Cole?
No.
Okay, so you go to present or invite. It's that box on the bottom left, or how it depends on what your screen is, and you can pull something off of your desktop, and then it'll just pop up. There'll be a box on my side, and I can just bring it in. So if you want to add anything. There's a lot of like comments and stuff I'm trying to keep up with. We are almost at the 2-hour mark, guys. We're almost at at 2 hours. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Rave culture. Let me see if I can catch up to this. Sloan Belly, yeah. Okay, there it is. This is it. And you can also manipulate the slide. You should be able to put your mouse over the arrow and click through there, Cole, if you want to. There should be an arrow. There should be an arrow. Yeah. So if you want, you have the same. There you go.
Yeah. So somebody just asked if there was female victims, and this is going back to Elliot's case in La Crosse, Wisconsin, last July. This is comments from her mom's Facebook page. And it's the name of it already sticks out to me. If you just say the words together, you can put it together. I'm not trying to get you banned or demonetized.
No, it's all right. I got my YouTube channels back within the last 6 months. Mysteriously, they just showed up. Yeah, so I don't know. I actually haven't got any like threats like I used to under the Biden administration. But once they come back, once the communists come back, I'm in trouble.
They're not coming back.
I hope not. It was a disaster. I mean, Biden for me was a disaster.
Dear God, for everyone, I know.
Yeah, really, it was terrible.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Anyway, why don't you go through your slides, Cole? That'd be great.
Yeah, this person is commenting on Elliot's mom's Facebook page. This is while she's missing, saying this is all your fault.
Gosh, it's brutal.
This is the taunting that they like to do. This is under Elliot's own page. Mm-hmm. I believe this was a picture of her standing next to the water or something. They say, this aged well. Good riddance. Karma got you.
Jesus.
Wow, incredible.
Just pure evil.
Yeah.
There was a girl here in Georgia that's one of the first cases of Georgia, and she was at the University of Georgia in Athens, where there's been probably a handful of cases too, but she left the library on campus, vanished, and they found her in a creek nearby the next day, and she died from hypothermia, drowning, and overdose of NyQuil. Where,
Huh.
yep. Which the professor told me a long time ago that NyQuil they thought was one of the drugs that they were using to drug people after they have them. Soma,
I could see that.
right? It's cheap.
No prescription.
Nope.
You're risking overdose, really.
Just thought that
Yeah.
was strange. I mean, that's one of the only cases it really bothered me. She was 21 years old, and the police, no one could even care. And I lived in Athens during college, and that type of stuff never happened, ever.
This is such a great picture here, Cole, because you show clearly the similarities, like the crown, all that stuff.
There's more than that too. That's just 3.
Yeah, this Woodland, PA, that's Tommy Booth. The second picture is Nicholas Garza. I want to say his case and Tommy Booth's case were like 2 weeks apart from each other. And they have similarities with the crown, smiley face, and the lines instead of dots for eyes.
Mm-hmm.
This last one was during my trip to Pittsburgh last year. This is in the alleyway that Gannon and his team believe that Dakota James was abducted in. And you can just see, I pointed out the similarities there below.
Wow. That's amazing.
I found very similar to graffiti that as well at a couple of places with the crown and smiley face. Panama City was one of the places where they had multiple guys. Rennie Joseph was one of them, but it was another.
You guys talk for a few minutes. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
No problem. Anyway, great work. I mean, William's right. It does show exactly. Little John's son. This keeps calling this kid Little John. I'm reading more questions. But yeah, it's been pretty easy. I mean, pretty crazy. Just how busy the last month has been, and how many young men are found dead, and no one even asks us a follow-up question. It's just so strange. Like in Des Moines, like you just posted, Cole. Oh, there we go. That's a great. We could talk about that. That case has everything.
Yep, that's you took that picture at the top.
I did, and I'll tell you when I took that picture. It was I have a sister, and she lives in the neighborhood this happened to, and she knew about. This is at the time there was probably only 10 or 15 victims in Georgia. And my sister sent this to me, and she said, this happened right down the street. I think this is a victim. So I went over there and we investigated, and this was 2 years after it happened. And we were able to still see they had just put up flowers for an anniversary of Blake's death. And so I was able to find where his body was found. And right where his body was found was at the mouth of a drainage pipe. And inside that drainage pipe in the country, this is in the country, there's no other graffiti, all the same color, was that. And Blake had lots of trauma from being tortured. His mom confirmed that. He was dead days, missing 45 days. He actually had a gunshot wound. His death was attributed to the gunshot wound, which I believe was a 22. He was found in the water. He also had last contact with police. That was the last thing he texted his family when he was coming home at 3 a.m. was that, hey, a cop stopping me. I'm not sure what's going on. The police in Noonan, Georgia had no record of that ever happening. And so just recently after, this has been one of the biggest crime stories in Georgia history, because this is an unsolved murder of a young man. that they just made an arrest of someone and he's in custody, and I'm still waiting to see what happens, but he said that he did this.
Something with it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. Like, it just seems weird that he would just walk in after, I don't know, 15 years and just say, "Yep, I did it."
I agree. There's been a couple cases of other people taking credit for murders when they're in jail. That happened to a guy in jail for Justin Gaines's murder, even though the body's never been found of Justin Gaines. And in prison, he says he's part of the gang. He's a gang member himself, but he said that he didn't do that, and then after he changed the story, trying to get out of prison, and then tried to say, "Well, yeah, I did do Justin's murder." But now he's changed the story again. So this is the second time I've seen this. Again, is he just trying to get a lighter sentence? Maybe he is involved. But that area where Blake was murdered in Noonan has had another handful of victims the exact same way. They just don't tell you that. One of the guys I went and visited his crime scene also near Blake's. He called his mom and said, "Hey, these guys are messing with me and I just got jumped. Can you come pick me up?" He was at a restaurant. Mom came up there. He was gone. Nobody's there. So when they found his body a couple weeks later, they wouldn't say if it was in the water or anywhere, but I think it was in a lake in the woods, in my opinion. He had all the money in his wallet. He had his wallet on him, packed full of money.
Yeah, these aren't financially motivated.
But why call your mom and say you were murdered? I mean, people were robbing you or to come pick you up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not far from where he was found. And this is a very nice area. This is not a place where crime happens very often.
I don't know. His case really sticks out with me. Blake's does, at least.
It does me too. It does me too, just because how big of a story it is. And, one of the things that his mom told me about her son's death was that she thought that it was something to have to do with the military, because the type of torture he had, the investigator said was military grade.
Wow, that's crazy.
And the scene, the graffiti in the pipe, which is very similar to what I just found where Little John's son was found inside of a drainage pipe connecting either a creek or a pond or something like that. It was those signs, and professor told me that sign next to the smiley face means nerve gas, and it's for the Army. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what I was told.
Oh, somebody confirm that and send me an email. That means nerve gas, and that also ties into Sarsky stuff, like the military.
It does.
Equipment, military training, or something.
A lot of hot spots near military bases.
Sure is. Seamus Gray, right? Like naval, all kinds of people
That's
going
right.
back to bases and stuff.
That's right. More than that, though. I mean, there's been a lot of. There was a kid a couple months back. He was in the ROTC and he vanished. This was in New Hampshire. And they found him like months later in the lake there, or like the ocean there. And there's in Panama City, Destin, there's been a lot of other young men, same way, probably between 10 and 15. I was just down there and I was shocked that I had missed probably about 4 men that have not been found, young men gone. But the Air Force Base is right down the street. And that's an interesting word, because the Air Force is pretty prevalent in a lot of these crimes in a lot of places nearby. I can tell you just off the top of my head, Virginia has had many military victims, people that are airmen. Does that ring a bell?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This one's interesting, like assaulting 19 men. You just see some of these guys like drugging and raping people. Franklin Enrique Sarceño Orla. That's another one just like Reynard Sanaga. Megan Turner. Ever heard the Megan Turner case? Oh, that was the elite violinist. Yeah. Bayous. East Nashville. This is Bingham. Remember Bingham? 21. This
There
is a
we
more
go.
recent one. Yeah. Who's this
Okay.
kid?
Yeah, I followed that case. That was on Halloween, right? And this kid is a frat kid, Owen. And he left at 3:00 in the morning. His friends. He went and changed clothes into a hoodie, and then went down to the bridge. It's called the Ravenel Bridge in Charleston. It's famous. And I've been there. I've been fishing there, and they have him on camera, and then they lose track of Owen on camera under the bridge. And so the police, when they couldn't find him, they said, well, he probably just fell in the river right there because we can't find him and it doesn't show anything on camera. Well, he's missing 2 weeks, and then they found him right by the Naval Museum in Charleston. And that's a very fast-moving river. I've been there myself. I've seen it. There's no way that he could have been found right there that long later. I don't care what anybody says. And I knew that. It's funny because I went fishing under that bridge probably 2 years ago, and it was late at night, and I was with some family and friends, and we were leaving. And because of what I do, I'm always looking around, and I'm not paranoid, but I was paying attention, and there were no cameras, and there was nobody under that bridge, and it was dark, and it was very isolated, and I had my guard up, and this is 2 years ago. Just because of the vibes you were getting and where you were, and there was just nobody around.
Yeah, that guy.
Found right by the Naval Museum.
Makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Owen Tillman Kenny, all over the news too. I remember that.
Yep. Walking.
Yeah, same old story.
But TMZ broke that story and said that that police had video of him falling in. Right? Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But I did a little bit more research on that, and that's not true. The truth was, and I'm wondering if it's the same as with Gacy, because they just lost Owen on camera, so they assumed that he fell into the water.
Right. See, this is classic stuff. Like the stories aren't really precise.
Right.
They're assumptions and stuff. Yeah. Just like that one. There's that other like so-called famous reporter who said that, oh, I've got it all concluded. Riley Strain went down, pulled off his pants to take a leak, and fell in the water and drowned. She had no proof. She just came to that conclusion. You don't know what happened. That's what she's telling her public. I don't know anybody. Like, I've been around, like, I'm old. I've been around dudes at golf and stuff like that, or out drinking, and I've never had anybody, like, injure themselves going into a place to relieve themselves, ever. Like, it is so strange that she can think that. She's out of her mind. Like, I cannot even believe how some of these analysts get away with this trash. Such trash.
Total trash. Don't care about victims at all either.
For the truth, it's just a game. Like you said, it's just a game. It's for clicks. Yep. They're happy just blubbering on, and they're not trying to get like the cold, dispassionate search for truth. They're just not interested. And it's a shame. It's a disgrace to these people who are getting murdered.
So disrespectful.
Luke Jolly DeRocher is his name. Somebody told me this movie Chained is kind of like the SFK thing. Like people getting abducted. Salford Quays. This is Europe, Manchester.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect storm of pressure. They always come up with some old story too.
Yeah.
He had 12-hour shifts. Therefore, he fell in the water.
Couldn't get out. Yeah. I've just like Gary, the Manchester
Gary J.
He did he stopped doing that, but when that first was really hot and heavy, he did that video of getting drunk himself. Remember? And he went and he fell into the canal.
Yeah.
He showed how easily he could get out. And that's something too. Like my friends and I, we used to go to rock quarries when I was in college and drink and jump off at night. And we used to go swimming at night. I've been absolutely hammered. Probably shouldn't be saying this, but I've been hammered and been in a pool, ocean, river swimming. Never has it ever been a problem for anybody to get out. Ever.
Yeah. No, they're making stuff up. Jordan Wright found dead in Phuket. This is another one of people being found dead in water in Thailand. There's a lot of those stories. No signs of forced entry. Lying face down in a water ditch. Yeah. That's not
normal.
suspicious.
No.
And then here's the Barcelona case. This is University of Alabama.
They keep asking this questions, like, oh, they think he was drugged, but they don't say by who, right? Or what was going on. And then he was with people, and then they try to say, no, he's not with people. And they're just lying. None of this is true. That we both know that something happened at 3:00 in the morning, and that this kid was picked, and something happened to him, and he was taken, in my opinion.
This is a thing that came up recently about this whole story of this phenomenon of men drugging their wives or other people, and then they bring other people in to rape them. So this kind of dark stuff happens. This is obviously heterosexual, but still, like, there's an online cult about this stuff, and it's being reported. Pornhub was monetizing real rape. This girl knows Pornhub. Rape videos of drugged unconscious victims, public pressure. Motherless is monetizing rape videos of drugged unconscious victims. I mean, you can do that online. It's so
disgusting,
crazy. So who knows, what's going on with these victims and what's happening? You really don't.
We can only assume. We can only assume by what we read and what we're told. Yeah.
More questions. Friend told me about young men drowning in Dublin 30 years ago. They were all gay. Yeah, send me an email. The best way to contact me is through email, guys. William Ramsey Investigates at protonmail.com. And this actually happened in Sydney. There's been a pattern of 30 or 40 years of dudes being found in water in Sydney. So it's definitely a thing. They're either lured or drugged into compliance. You guys want to answer that?
Both.
Yeah, William, I'm going to send you something right now.
Okay, email it to me. Email it to my Proton Mail account.
Michigan Players?
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's talking about Colin Finnerty. It's Finnerty. Colin is Cullen.
Yeah.
He has his own Wikipedia page. He's very well known. And you can watch the video of him. There's a documentary, excuse me.
Yeah. He called his wife in a panic that people were chasing him.
The way that the documentary about him kind of concluded was he's mentally ill or he had mental problems.
CTE. Right.
Yeah.
I tried to blame that on that, but no.
Sure
No.
Sure
no. How can what can make a guy that's 6'4", 250, an NFL quarterback scared?
He's huge. He's an athlete.
Tells you a lot.
He could probably take down 99% of the people.
100%.
What do you think they're doing? You guys ever want to speculate? God only knows. But some of these people, most all of them are kept for a period of time, it sure seems like.
They're torturing them. I mean, it's that simple.
Do bloodhounds really work?
William, I just sent you a link in our chat.
Okay.
This is to respond to what the person who said, I wonder what they're doing while they're missing is. This article is from 2008, I believe, in Wisconsin, of all places. And the guy kidnapped 2 adult men on separate instances from bars and kept them captive. And both men were actually able to escape.
Edward Lanphier, he's in my book.
Yep.
Under typology. Outwardly a heterosexual guy with a wife.
And
we can only assume.
With them. Well,
prosecutor said he preyed on men who had been drinking.
I saw in some reporting that in the court testimony, the victims said that he shackled them to a shower and showered with them and blindfolded them and fed or force fed them alcohol and made them eat eggs and lay on a mattress and just some weird stuff.
Said Lanphier was depressed, had problems at work. Judge said that Lanphier had been reviewing pornography involving men in bondage and that believed the crimes were planned. Yeah, see, there you go. It's the same thing. It's like this pre-planning.
It is.
They're thinking about it.
Bloodhounds do work.
Yeah, they do.
That's something that we try to push more now, because when a man goes missing, bloodhounds aren't used, and they just start making up excuses. Instead, you can cut straight to the chase by getting a bloodhound out there immediately and seeing where the scent ends.
I think they did that with Chris Jenkins, right? And that really strange things.
Oh, yeah. Riley, a lot of people.
Do you guys have any thoughts on the symbolic message that they're trying to give? Amanda asks. I don't know if it's a symbolic message. I think that the symbol is like a tag, like it's some kind of like signature or something.
William, I agree with that.
Go ahead, bud.
I was gonna say, I think that they're like, it's like wordplay almost, and I said this before. Like they're almost like tagging that area or signaling to others that know, like just different words, like constantly Water Street. The one was Cincinnati, that occurred in different states, and that's an out there word, like half moon, anything referencing the moon, or like howl.
Yeah. Well said.
I was muted. 22-year-old said he got drunk at a bar, passed out in his truck, and worked July 8th to find someone trying to restrain him. He was blindfolded and was driven away in another vehicle. He told investigators he looked under the blindfolds and recognized Lanfear from the bar. So these guys are being, stalked at bars. All the way back in 2008. This is another example. He got busted. Lanfear got busted for 2 people. What were his other crimes? Were there any other crimes?
For sure.
Was this his first go? Was he doing that as a pattern?
It's really interesting how many places where people are hunted. It's not just bars. It's concerts. It's sporting events.
Yep. Coming out of sporting events.
Yep.
It's like coming out at night.
NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball.
TD Gardens.
Yep. Big time.
Santa Clara Stadium.
Yep. Buffalo Stadium.
Yeah. Looking for drunks.
Just shooting fish in a barrel. It's just.
Many SFK crimes occur in small-town jurisdictions, contributing to problematic investigations. I don't think that's really correct. A lot of them
used to be. Used to be. I think bigger cities now.
I think a challenge that police departments have is when a person goes missing in one either city or state and is recovered in, like Elliot's case, like that's completely different states trying to work together and them battling over whose actual job it is to want to do something about it. Or like Tommy Booth, them leaving from Delaware but going right over the border into Pennsylvania, into Philadelphia.
Right. Cup of Coffee says, how often do you think the victims are familiar with their killers? Would either of you like to answer that?
I think there's a level of that. I do. I think that a lot of these times that it looks like these people are set up or picked previously before, and they have information about them, that it's not just some random guy out at a bar. Sure doesn't look like it. And some of the cases that we've gotten close enough to, that some of the people that are suspected in being involved were friends or acquaintances. Some.
I definitely think that friends are familiar, or that they definitely know to some degree. Like just going back to like some classic cases, like even Tommy Booth again, he was with like 6 of the people he knew that night. Jelani Brinson in Anoka, Minnesota, he was with people who worked at his job. Dakota James went out with the people he knew from his job.
Yep. Shoot, there's so many people. I had somebody I was going to say off the top of my head that.
It seems like Chris Jenkins knew other people, like his girl he was with.
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
Yep.
Whose friend was a cop. So there's like cop involved. I think that one of the bouncers are cops. That's very common. Actually, to have cops work as bouncers.
Very. Same as Riley in Nashville. Riley was fingered by a patron, a woman, that said he was drunk. And it was, in my opinion, it was after he had been given the drug and they knew he was going to react and he was going to start acting funny. So this girl said that he was acting inappropriately and they threw Riley out. And that's happened in so many, working with security and so just like Chris Jenkins. That's the last time people ever see them. You know, nobody ever interviewed that girl who fingered Riley. You get that all that started, you know.
Right. It's incredible. Like there's just no interest in inquiries or anything, just like standard material. Once they declare him dead, accidental drowning, everything stops.
Man,
it's
so worse than that too, William. You know, Bryce Borka, when he got abducted in Minnesota on the 20-year anniversary of Chris Jenkins, you know, I talked to a lot of his friends and they reached out to me because they thought they were very upset and they believed me and us that what had happened and what we were saying. And I found out specifically that the bar that he was at last was at a fraternity party that I called up there to try to get the police. I tried to call up there to get the CCT footage, and I asked them if the police had called. And this is 2 weeks after he had disappeared, and no one had even contacted them. Nobody.
wow.
I wanted to see who was watching Bryce when he left the bar.
Yeah, it's astonishing.
It's disgusting.
Jeff asks, how do each of you stay sane investigating this evil? Good question. You guys want to answer?
Jimmy, you want to go?
Sir, I would say it's very hard to stay grounded, and this wears people out. This has worn every single investigator out, except for Kevin Gannon. Since after a while, it just wears people out, and it takes a task on them. I am religious. You know, God gets me through a lot of things, and I believe that I'm doing this for God, and I'm trying to keep it light. And I do the best I can to try to stay happy and fresh and not let this get you down. But it is tough, and it does have times where it is really tough with your mental health because there's just so much death and so much sadness. But when I get that way, I check out. I will check out for a little while, and then I'll check back in. And that's kind of what happens. And I do that. I'm not ever going to quit. I feel I care too much about what's happening. And I know in my heart, what is happening is evil and murder. And I'm never going to stop doing this until this stops.
Cole, what do you think? What do you think, Cole?
I think that honestly, you could even see like during my post, if you even probably look at the dates or something, I go through periods of not wanting to do this every day or even for a while. Like I definitely take some breaks if I need to. And I haven't even been actively doing something about it for that long, maybe like 2 years or so. But yeah, honestly, just taking breaks, like it doesn't have to control or rule everything. Like I know I'm not going to be the one to solve every single case that I know about or anything like that, but I try to just remind myself that I'm doing it for good reasons. And if I can even like come to the conclusion that I get a good piece of evidence that I could share with somebody or a family member or something like that, then I know my job is, I did a good job.
For sure.
Yeah. And the families are devastated. Like every family who lost their young person. I mean, if you ever lose a child, obviously it's devastating, but like you do kind of feel like you're doing something at least to prevent people from this happening to them. Like everybody should know about these type of cases. Do not leave somebody at a bar alone. Never let somebody leave a bar alone, even if it's a man or woman. Like you should go out like you're going into the jungle in Vietnam, where 12 people go out and 12 people get home and go to bed and wake up the next day. That's your mentality. That's the way women are. So men should be the same way. Like don't abandon your buddies. Like you might as well be in the jungle freaking with Charlie or something.
Well, one of the things that keeps me going though is I've had the pleasure of meeting some of these families for years, and they've trusted me with information and talking to me and trying to show me. And, you know, when I get down, I think about them. I really do, because these people's lives are destroyed, and you never get over a child's death. It's especially a majority of these young men are like literally in the prime of their lives and about to go out into the world and live their lives. And they're brutally murdered and their families are disrespected by law enforcement and everyone. And that's what keeps me going in times of when I'm feeling down, because they trusted me and I can't let them down.
How many judges are corrupt? I think that they're all part of parties' system. So the entire kind of urban blue thing are one big party all over the country. They're just all part of the same network. They get paid, they get promoted, all that stuff. Somebody just said, Jake said about another body in the harbor. This is the guy, Branson O'Dour.
Yep. 27, leaving the bar.
Found yesterday.
1 a.m.
Out at Fells Point. This is a known bar area in Baltimore. Girlfriend.
Been victims in Baltimore for 10 years. In the harbor. Same way, just not as much. They don't talk about it much. They're usually black. Same thing though. That's why I say I wonder if some of the differences in victims we see are because of the killers look like the victims. Perfect example.
Last seen at the Horse, she came in on Saloon, stumbling down 10th Street at 2:15 a.m. Classic MO stuff. Avid runner. Sad. Another death. Anyway, guys, we are at the 2 hour 30 second. Anybody have any additional questions? You guys have anything else you want to say? I mean, I'll try to reach out to Igor Sarksky and see if he'll join us for another one for the round.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys would like to add?
I would love to, like I said earlier, I would love to have one of these discussions and expand it to people that really can offer a different perspective and know exactly what they're talking about. I would love to have Nikki. I would love to have Kevin. I would love to have JJ Vance. I would love to have a couple other people, just because each one of us has something so special that we don't know. And I'm always amazed when I learn stuff from people like you, William, or Cole.
Do you think you could get Gannon or Egan to join us?
I do.
Okay, well, you can be my schedule for the next one.
I'll do my.
Okay,
I'm going to work on it.
And JJ, of course. JJ's welcome.
JJ's.
We've done a lot of shows. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the nice compliments. We had 375 live. Well, we do have 375 live listeners now. So thanks everybody for listening, and check out their social media. We didn't cover everything, so you can go through Jim's social media. Is really an encyclopedia. Probably has more information than my books and videos, honestly. Going back 10 years, you can see all his other cases. I think he cast a wider net than I do. So check that out. It's at Smiley Face Cult. And Cole, yours is at Staged Drownings, right?
Yes. Yep.
Is there anything either of you like to add before I wrap up? Anything I missed?
Just thanks for everybody.
I'd like to. Yes, thank you guys. Seriously. And to touch on what Jim said, I think that having a huge discussion with a bunch of different researchers would be very beneficial to this case and to just the cause of this in general.
Agreed. Yeah, Tara, they just found this guy, Branson O'Dour, yesterday. So he was missing for 10 days, it looks like. So just the body count goes up. I don't know. Maybe he tripped and fell, but it is strange when somebody's missing for that long. That is a tell. So everybody share the show if you can. I really appreciate it. Support these guys. I have 2 documentaries, a book you can check out. The book is, I redid it. I think in 2025 is when I re-edited it. So it's already a 2nd edition. And I'll probably have to add a 3rd edition at some point. I don't know how much more work I can do on it, but I'll probably do a Staged Drowning additional thing with Cole's work. But again, the guests tonight are Jim Smith of Smiley Face Cult on Twitter and Cole of Staged Drowning. Check them out. Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thanks, William. Thanks, Cole.